I remember playing drums and the minister, pastor, or whatever. I remember he had his hands on me. He was like trying to fill me full of the Holy Spirit, and I was just like, oh, jeez, get your hands off of me.
Welcome to Every Album Ever with Mike and Alex. My name is Mike Mansour, and I'm joined, as always, by my thrashing co-host, Alexander Volt. Say hello.
Stay thrashing.
Yeah, this is Every Album Ever, the podcast where we listen to every single album in the world, one artist at a time. It's usually a whole new discovery per episode, except for these EAE singles episodes where we discuss something brand new, and in this case, a little bit more than that. So what are we discussing today, Alex?
I might say the title of the album wrong, but this is the latest album by Melvins drummer Dale Crover entitled Glossolalia. I don't.
Glossolalia? Glossolalia.
There
Something
we go.
like that.
And we got another interview.
Hell yes, thank God, we have officially gotten both Melvins on the fucking pod. We have a full interview with Dale Crover at the end of this, done by our wonderful history guy and interviewer, Tom Osman. Should all go support Tom Osman.
Well, Tom, I know they're not in the Melvins anymore, but you have to get Jared and Cody next.
Got to get Jared and Cody, and track down basically every bass player while you're at it. Fucking Kevin Rubanis.
Yeah. Trevor Dunn. Yeah. And if you get Cody, that means you have access to Matt Pike. So,
and that's the holy grail, honestly. So huge thanks to Dale for doing the interview, and big thanks to Monica at Speakeasy for hooking us up with the album and setting it all up and connecting Tom with Dale. I'm so excited that we got Dale. I've said it many times, because I deeply believe it, that I think he's the greatest living drummer. I mean, he's been one of my favorites since I was a kid. And there's just no other Dale.
Yes. As a young man, chasing that bottom high, and then Dave Grohl kind of does it, but there's only so much Dave Grohl, and that's not really his primary instrument anymore. And then when I learned to love the Melvins, I was like, Dale is that guy. Those flams are just chef's kiss. Like, I don't. Yeah, it's weird how making your drums sound big is almost a skill in of itself.
Yeah, I can think of no other drummer who uses less notes and makes them sound better. Like, I think he's the greatest living drummer because of his choices. There's plenty of, ridiculous dudes who have two arms that sound like they're fucking Shiva or something with a million arms. Plenty of those, but the choices are really what make it feel like someone is whacking you in the face with the drumstick, and really no one hits harder than Dale. Like, man, him and Ray Washam of Scratch Ass are like some of the craziest hard hitting drummers. But yeah, Dale's just the fucking king. And
I should have busted out the Dale drumstick I have. It is comically huge.
Really?
It is, yeah. Maybe I'll take
the number of it.
I don't. I'll take a picture of it next to my hand and send it to you, and then you could like flash something on. Yeah, I'm sure that information's out there. It sure shit ain't no 5A though.
Yeah, it's like a fucking Coke can drumming with. But he's doing solo records. This is his third solo record, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, you're correct.
Heard the one from the one before this, but I only heard it once. I don't believe I've heard the first one he did.
This is my first like proper solo album I listened to him, unless you count Porn, not porn. He had like a project called Porn.
Wait, that sounds familiar.
I remember.
Hard to Google.
Yeah, I remember. I'm sure if you go to Dale's wiki or something, that's the safe way to do it. Or his Discogs. I remember giving that a listen.
Men of Porn.
Men of Porn, or maybe they were called
porn in parentheses the Men of. Yeah,
I think they changed it to the Men of Porn exactly for that.
They're just Porn now, but before they were Men of Porn, and then they were Porn the Men. Yeah, okay, keep going.
So yeah, unless you count that, I do remember checking that out back in the day.
Never heard of them. It's interesting. I'm super curious, but the only thing solo before this that I heard, of course, obviously, is the Dale Crover solo EP, and that was in my opinion, that was like the best one. That was like it was so far the best one though. It was like it was played a lot in my household. I would borrow that one and the King Buzzer one a lot from my brother when I was a kid, but it was always the Dale one that I was really like after.
We should correct that wrong next year and get to those EPs.
We've been saying we're gonna do the EPs for maybe 2 years now. Check out all our episodes on the Melvins, by the way. I didn't even play. We did 3 parts of all their main studio albums, and then one with Five-Legged Dog, and then one with the album that came out this year, which I already forgot what it's called. One with the Buzz interview.
Tarantula Heart.
Oh yeah, Tarantula Heart. Yeah, no shit. Which check out that. Obviously, check out that interview with Buzz and Tarantula Heart episode. So man, they're so busy. This is such a fucking good year for music, man. Goddamn. Anyway, what'd you think?
Not surprised to see Nuggets listed as a big influence. If you like Nuggets and throwback 60s rock pop psychedelia, this is where to go. It's a fun, cool little ride. Sometimes it sounds minimal and stripped down, even though there's cool stuff on here. Got my favorite producer / mixer Toshi on here.
Of course, you got Toshi. Of course.
Let's flash back to the beginning of the year. Who worked on that Satya Sena album?
That's right. Yeah.
Please check out Satya Sena. I
100%
went to the show and I feel bad I forgot the singer's name. That guy's fucking cool as fuck. I didn't even introduce myself. He just was like, "Oh fuck!" Like he knew, man. Like he had seen the episode. So
yeah, isn't it Pej?
Pej. There we go. Yeah. Sorry. So yeah, support Satya Sena.
Great album. It's own debut album. Crazy album.
Yeah, Toshi is like if you know who he is, like you will see him at almost every like slug, not like metal shit, but like sludge, noise rock, maybe some punk stuff. Like, and that's what I love about, because he plays on this album too. He seems like fan first always, and
oh yeah, there's a lot of fun stuff and a lot of guests on here too, but. Yeah, garage, like a lot of garage rock, but not. Man, I find it to be more endearing than that, and also a little bit fresher than that, because it doesn't sound like a throwback retro, just trying to play 60s garage rock so much. For one, the production is completely it's its own thing. It's completely its own thing. There's a lot of variety in the types of layering, and a lot of good instrumentation. A lot of diversity in feel with the songs too. So there's good pacing on here. It's very rare that a song will sound similar to the one that it follows. So it has that going for it too. But as for the guests, well, my favorite on here would be fucking Kim Thayil from Soundgarden. He plays lead guitar on 2 tracks.
Absolutely. Kim shows up and does things that don't sound like what you expect from him, but I also guess that's his MO too, because like he's played with Sun or Suno, whatever you want to call him. I think the funniest guest appearance is definitely Tom Waits, though.
Yes. Because what I learned is that Glossolalia is just another word for speaking in tongues, and Tom Waits is credited as playing the Glossolalia.
Also,
and it's accurate.
Yeah, I guess speaking in tongues is this donkey noises. It's amazing.
It's not even speaking in tongues. It's making a bunch of donkey noises, and it opens up the album, and it's awesome.
Yeah, I was like, what track was Tom Waits on? I didn't like, did he play? Yeah. And then I looked back. I was like, oh shit.
No shit. The crazy fucking voice sound, obviously. Although I didn't learn until this year that Tom Waits was on Tommy the Cat from Primus. So that,
that's right. That's right.
I always miss him. But We also got Rob Crow on guitar on guitar and vocals on one song, and then vocals on two others. And then we got Rob Crow, who's like heavily associated with like the Hot Snakes. He was on the last Hot Snakes album. I think he did some vocals on one of the Dry Like Jihu albums. He's like associated with them. He's been on a lot of albums, but the last one and the most unexpected and weird guest, fucking Ty Segal plays guitar on 2 tracks.
Oh no, I knew the Melvins are fans of his, so
I did. He's so off my radar that I didn't even consider that.
Yeah, Melvins like him. I think Rollins is a fan of his, so I kind of knew he's like in the orbit.
Gotcha.
But yeah, there's this amongst kind of to segue amongst all these like heavy guest stars. Towards the end, we got this track Kitten Knife, and it's some of my favorite guitar playing riffs, solos on the whole album.
Oh wow!
I was like, surely this is a guest star here. It's this Dale being cool as fuck. Like,
yep. There's really, I mean, those guitar lines are pretty strange, pretty kooky stuff.
Yeah, that's this Dale, and I think that's rad. Even bringing in star power to fans of the Melvins.
Yeah, I know.
Not traditional star power, but star power amongst fans who like the Melvins.
Kim is a fucking star to me, but that one, especially the bass tone on that one struck me as super garage, super Beatlesy, really.
Yeah, there's Beatles vibes up and down this whole album, which again, that's no secret. Their love of the Beatles.
Of course.
I kind of got that vibe on the second track, Doug Yuletide. I was thinking, when Beatles go like psychedelic, I got some of that vibes mixed with 90s alternative rock, although Dale cited Velvet Underground's Venus and Furs for that one.
I could see that. That makes sense. I like that one a lot more following the opener, because it's the first instance. I mean, because it does it throughout the whole album, where it gives you a different type, a different feeling song. So this one comes in and it's, whereas the opener was a little bit more dirty and garage rocky. Doug Yuletide, it comes in slower, more on the indie side. It has a really nice dark solo on there. And that one, out of all the songs, that one reminded me the most of his Melvins EP from a million years ago.
The other time he brings up the Melvins is on the song Rings, which I love. I think like of the 2 tracks Kim's on, like Rings is where it's at.
Ooh,
and
really?
And Dale cited the Beatles song I'm Only Sleeping for that one. But yeah, I just love how dreamy and hypnotic it is, and the way the lyrics are anything but. It's about this nefarious character. So I think overall Rings is just a really, really cool track.
I enjoyed it even more following Blow It Up because, like I just said before, the pacing of it, it moves. It's not the most ballady thing on the album. It's like the second most ballady thing on the album. But at that point in the album, it's the first thing that goes like full minor key. It's a lot more. It's a lot prettier than like every track before that. Plus the solo by Kim is really good. But I do like Kim's guitar work on I Quit more because it's fucking nuts.
Yes, very like psychedelic noise stuff, and also a more traditional guitar solo. I like having the best of both worlds. Also, I just love, because sometimes I worry that I cite other musicians while talking about other people's work too much, and it's so cool to like read the notes on this and this see Dale be like, oh, I was just trying to sing like Gary Newman on this one. So
I like his voice on the whole album, by the way. Like he's always had a kind of a cool, very understated style whenever he sings. But it fits in so nicely. It's a really, because I mean, there's the influences. I'm getting a lot of Iggy Pop stuff just in the style of writing, and like it doesn't sound like Iggy Pop, but it reminds me of like that's of that 70s time frame of a voice that would fit in with that.
It is also interesting for, you know, where Dale's at in his career, and this long career he's had, to record this very like youth. Well, I guess, you know, the 60s aren't, but like youthful energy to it.
Mm-hmm.
So I
it
thought
does
that
have a
was
youthful energy to it. Yeah.
Yeah. You were talking about blowed up. Also, I love that it's blowed up, not blow it up. It's just
or blown up. Yeah.
Blowed up.
Yeah.
I love the drumming on that one. It's like,
yeah,
it's like why I love Dale as a drummer. It feels creative, and it doesn't feel like a beat we would get for a Melvins song. So I just think it's very cool. And then I'm assuming it's Toshi coming in with these like weird electronics on it. Very cool stuff.
What I like about the drumming on this album is because we're not, I mean, Melvins is so fucking diverse. They've done really everything possible, every type of song possible. They've gone crazy complex, crazy simple, but not typically used to hearing just really straightforward drum beats. But even when he's doing straightforward, normal drum beats, there's still a largeness to it. There's still something like a little bit laggy the way he hits stuff that you know it's him. There's just such a style to it. Even with something as simple as just a fucking regular as 4/4 beats. It's interesting. It's like little just nuances in one man's play style.
Earlier when we opened, I was talking about how much I love his sound in the Melvins, and I do think that's a cool choice here to have his drums not sound like that. They're not as big and echoey, and they don't ring. It's like fitting the sound to the production and the style of music that he wants to make, instead of, well, I guess I'm known for this, so I'm just gonna stick with it.
The only moment in the album that made me think of Melvins is I Quit, which I mean, it feels fucking awesome. It comes in really heavy and mean. There's like some noisiness on there, but it has an acoustic touch that reminded me a lot of Five-Legged Dog, like that type of production, because it really does sound like that Five-Legged Dog production. Yeah, but I mean, I think it's a fantastic song. You got some more upbeat, fun stuff with songs like Jane.
Yep, the Knack song. So yeah, again, I just thought that was cool that he's like, well, Buzz said it sounded like the Knack, and I'm like, he's 100% right.
Who's the Knack?
Oh.
Tell me, explain to me.
Did they do My Sharona?
Is that them?
Yes. Yeah.
Holy shit! I never knew the name.
Yeah, fucking they're one of the like coolest one-hit wonder bands, because they had the one hit with My Sharona, but they're really talented guy. Like they have like some interesting albums.
Oh, I never would have thought of that. It just never came across me. Holy crap!
I don't know why I've never looked at their disc. It's we'll say it's a manageable discography at that.
Hey, okay.
Well, so if there's any Knack fans out there, there it is.
Hell yeah. So if you had to pick a favorite on this album, what would you pick?
Oh man, I think it's a tie between Rings and Kitten Knife.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna go top 3 actually. Those two and Punchy.
Okay.
Like,
yeah, it's a strong closer. Yeah,
strong closer. Another dreamy, surreal track. This go out on a high note. I love the imagery of someone in his dreams wearing purple and green, and it's some of my favorite. I don't know exactly what the instrument is, if they used a few things or if it's just the one second, if it's just this Q chord thing or but I love the way the electronics sound on Punchy more than any other track.
They sound amazing on Punchy. They really remind me of Chrome. Which, I mean, that's a wild band on its own, but anything that channels some of that craziness is pretty fun.
I think I have a split 7-inch from a band called the Agoraphobic Nosebleed and Chrome. And I just bought it purely because the album art on front and back is some of the funniest shit ever. The front is two cops arresting a cholo with a tattoo that says "fuck the police." And then the back is like Kurt Rambis of the Lakers, like kneeling down, and they like drew over him to make him look like a knight.
What the fuck? It's pretty fun. What the hell?
And I was like, I don't know what any of these bands sound like, but
Wait,
it's
what year did
both-
that come out?
Oh,
Crom.
yeah.
Crom.
Oh, okay.
Different band.
Okay. Did you find? Yeah. If you do agoraphobic nose bleed and Crom, and then you go over to the images, you could see the Kurt Rambis thing in the front cover. This crazy front and back album art, and I was like, I don't know what any of these bands sound like, but I think I need this on my person.
Yeah, not bad. Yeah, this 2009. Yeah, Chrome is from is a lot older. Chrome is from like the 80s. But,
Okay.
Oh yeah, they're 70s. I don't know why. I didn't realize they were,
Okay.
The main album I listened to the most was in the 80s, but like they started in the 70s. Chrome was a crazy fucking band. Talk about, man, ahead of their time and doing weird shit. It's a fun band. But
I need to check that out.
Oh yeah, I mean, if I'm gonna make a recommendation at the gate, the Blood on the Moon is the one I listen to a ton. It's like space rock. It's like
Perfect.
alien, yes, like 70s movie alien space rock. It's fucking crazy cool.
The only thing I think I want to hear is fucking Hawkwind. Is it comparable to Hawkwind?
I haven't heard enough Hawkwind. See, where I have the Chrome, you have the Hawkwind. We need to join forces.
Okay, so I'll listen to that Chrome album, and you listen to Space Ritual and
Space Ritual. All right, we'll reconvene.
Space, yeah, for like Voltron.
Hell yeah. So yeah. What else we got in here?
I Waited Forever. That's the one where the riffage, I was like, that's the most Melvins sounding to me. But
love that opening riff, man. Love it.
Definitely put through that Nuggets filter machine, and then I don't know if it's a keyboard or that electronic instrument Toshi's playing, but it's this solo, and I think it adds nice variety to an otherwise like very guitar driven song. Yeah.
That opening riff is also the chorus riff. It's really fucking interesting. It's it's a nice little contrast because it has these really tangible rock riffs, like, and then when it goes to that chorus, it's just like more fucked up Melvins-y sounding thing. I dig it a lot. And then the ballad of the album is "Don't Worry About It."
Yes, I think the only acoustic guitar song. It's more somber, more reflective. It's I don't know if it's meant to be sweet, but there is like a sweetness again, kind of like, yeah, like I said, there's a youthful energy here, and something about that song. I'm like, I feel like I'm a teenager again for some reason.
It's a little bit sweeter, but it's also pretty dark. Like it still gets pretty dark, musically dark.
It is looking at the lyrics, very simple but dark. Yeah.
But it's really it kind of opens up more gentle, but there's a lot of layers that get kind of packed on there, and until it's like the final quarter. I mean, it's so good, super interesting, and really like moving solos. It has a gritty. I think it's my favorite build up of any song on the album. It has a great build to that one. And it stands out a lot because it is like the most ballady. Really does stick out.
Ty Segal is on the Waited Forever.
Yeah, and Spoiled Daisies.
Spoiled Daisies, and that's really the first and maybe only song I would call rockin'.
Oh yeah,
like the electronic elements of the album are kind of stripped away, and it's a little less leaning into psychedelia, but it's still there.
Yeah, it's short, it's rocking, it's got a nice edge to it, it's a little bit meaner. One of the most straightforward things, but maybe even the most straightforward song on the whole album.
Yeah, I would say that's fair. And one of the shortest, which I think was nice because it comes after two of the, not long songs, but I Waited Forever.
Depth,
yeah, that's a good way to put it. They're more in depth. So having this like short like high energy song is just nice after those two songs, I think.
Yeah, it has a good flow. I mean, the whole album has good flow to it, and it's just I don't know. It has that looseness of a Melvins album where it feels very organic. Like these aren't like, revolutionary riffs, but they're very natural. They're very organic riffs that just kind of fit with each other. Everything just kind of lands in the right spot. Simple riffs and melodies, but they just feel natural. And they're fun. Some of them are really interesting, and some of the instrumentation is really crazy, but it's never like overly so. They're not like shoving craziness. It's not clunky either, where they just throw some weird thing on a normal song. Everything just kind of fits together. Like on I Quit, it has these fucking Kraftwerk beat boops on there, and it's like, oh, that's a nice little touch. It doesn't feel like forced in any kind of way.
Yeah, I would agree. This all kind of makes one complete picture, and it's kind of impressive. I believe he said he just kind of threw this album together because Red Cross is going out on the road, and he was going to open, and this needed some tunes to play. So yeah, I guess when you're as prolific and you've been doing it as long as Dale, you can hammer one out real quick and make a fun album.
That's the crazy thing, because like they've been making albums for so long and so consistently, nonstop, that there's like I feel no pressure from this. Like it felt like there was no pressure on him to like, oh, I got to make this statement. I gotta come in with a concept. I have to make this be known. It's just, I'll throw some songs together, but he's been doing it for so long, and Melvins have always been so good magically at not repeating themselves and just like, oh, that seems cool. It's like reason why Melvins are special in my eyes anyway. It's because their natural process of making music just happens to be constantly innovating and changing. Whereas a lot of great artists have to actively make that choice, because a lot of people, man, I would say the vast majority of musicians, they have a tool set, myself included. Like I have a certain fucking tuning I go back to or something, or I have a certain, I have a certain rhythm. I have a certain type signature that I kind of gravitate toward. Like you just have your tricks that you get accustomed to because you like them, you enjoy them. Melvins happen to just always be changing. So when you hear like, oh, I'm going to write some normal ass songs, it ends up being like, oh, that's actually kind of refreshing.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, lots of times on this podcast, we cover a series of punishing bands week in, week out. And I had a little breather with Metallica, but yeah, I don't know. It was nice to listen to this one because I'm in a haze. I don't know what we've recorded in the lead up to this, but this was like a nice little palate cleanser.
Yeah. I believe we just finished Killman. Yeah,
that's pretty heavy.
It's heavy and it's incredible, but this is a little bit of a breather.
Yes, for sure.
It's fun. I mean, I don't have many opportunities to see bands anymore because of where I live now, but I need to see Melvins again, at least sometime next year or something. It would be nice to see Red Cross also.
I was thinking about that. Because I saw Mastodon recently. I saw like the Volta 3 times on the reunion thing, and I was like, you know what? The Melvins have never left me. There's no excuse that I've gone this long without. Next time they play, I need to prioritize it. But then also, I know Dale had the back issues, and thankfully that's all taken care of.
Thank God, yes.
So yeah, I was looking forward to that Boris Melvins tour, but maybe next year.
Barely related, but it jogged my memory. When I was in Florida earlier this month, at the time of recording, seeing Florida things, it was really just mostly just seing treries and being
just
humid. It was a very nice area, and it was a nice place. But
okay,
I didn't really see anything that resembled music, like period, except I'm walking, this little nice plaza area with these nice restaurants. And then I'm walking by this restaurant, and in one of the restaurants behind the counter is some dude wearing a Boris shirt. And it was like the most jarring thing. Like, no fucking way. I never even saw that in LA, like, let alone this random ass nice town in Florida. What the fuck?
Yeah. Since you were sharing jarring music stories and I texted you about it, went to visit my family in a small town in Minnesota called New Ulm, and I'm just minding my business, walking down their main street, and there is a bar/restaurant, and I see a flyer for Michael Graves, and I'm like, you know what? That could be a common name. Surely it's not the Michael Graves.
Nobody spells it like that except for him. He spells Michael incorrectly, for one.
Sure enough.
Maybe it's just his birth name.
If you live in small town America, you can see Michael Graves for $5.
Dude, $5 isn't even enough money for me to pick up off the floor because our dollar has been diminished so much in the past few years.
There's got to be some other incentive going on there. I don't know. But yeah, it's the same feeling you had with I was just like, what? Like,
what the fuck?
Very taken off. Also, I doubt he'll listen to this, but they have a thrift store / used vinyl store called Vintage and Vinyl, and I talked to the guy there, and he just gave me a free vinyl from a local band around there. So I don't know if I like them, but it was just a cool gesture.
That's pretty sick.
Yeah.
Having little record spots in general. I mean, they're becoming obviously hard to sustain, but geez, there's like a hominess to it. I have one in my town. There's one little record store, and it's like the one spot where, like, oh, thank God, there's a Deaf Heaven vinyl there. Thank God, there's something I can grab onto. Like, that's important. I mean, maybe just for us. I don't know. I'm speaking from old man perspective.
You know what I purchased from that record store? Steely Dan's Gaucho.
Shut the fuck up. Why? Traitor Alex. Check out that episode of Steely Dan. I fucking hate them. God damn it.
Yeah. Whenever I travel, I'm like, can I find a used album Mike will hate? When I was on the East Coast last time, I said, there is ELO's time. Let's do it. And this time it was Steely Dan's Gaucho.
I'm choosing time a million times out of 10 over fucking Steely Dan. I mean, geez. But yeah, check out the album. It's out right now, and it's fun. It's fun, and it's a departure from Melvins, but it's also just a well-written set of fucking garage rock songs, but not doing just simple garage rock stuff. There's way more complexity in texture diversity there. It's just more interesting.
Well said.
Stay tuned for the full ass interview with Tom and Dale.
And that's probably why most people are here, honestly.
Of course. And we're talking to our people. It's okay. And if you're new and you're watching, that's also cool too. But you can also have just easily skipped because I'm time stamping this.
Also, at time of recording, we're almost at 4,000 subscribers on YouTube. That's quite. I'm very proud. And anytime we get those 1,000 marks, I'm very proud of it.
Hell yeah.
Probably by the time this comes out, we'll be at 4,000, and it'll take 5 more years to get to 8,000. Hopefully,
and it's all worth it, baby.
We get 1 subscriber a day, and
it all pays off. Thank you to everyone who's joined us and hung out. So yeah, please do that. You can follow me on all social media at Pander Monkey. And you can follow Alex on Instagram at
Every Album Alex.
Hell yeah. And be sure to follow our history guy, Tom Osman. It's history guy / interviewer, Tom Osman, at Tom Osman Sounds on all social media, as well as TomOsmanSounds.com for his music and his podcast, whatever comes next, where he interviews a bunch of indie musicians. And there's links to all that in the description. Check out my EP. There's a link to that in the description as well. Patreon, baby. Patreon.com/everyalbumever. That's where you go. 2 bonus episodes a month. You get to see our schedule in advance. You get to vote on polls to decide who we cover next. You can join the Discord, be part of the community, and you can also suggest any new albums that came out this year, and we can do singles episodes on them. And if you're tier 2, if you're bigger than Jesus, then you can suggest a full-ass discography for us to cover on our bigger, longer numbered episodes. In addition to the full discography, you can suggest any album from any band ever, and we'll do a Patreon bonus episode on it. So go there, do that. Hell yes. And stay tuned. Wait, no, before. What should we close it with?
I'm partial to Doug, unless you have any.
I like I Quit, but let's go Doug.
Okay. Hell yeah.
Thank you so much for listening and watching to our portion. Stay tuned for the full interview with I almost said with Doug, with Dale next. Hell yes.
Well, I guess I'm going to do some kind of half-hearted introduction and say this is Tom for Every Album Ever with Mike and Alex. And as everyone should expect, because you've just been listening to Mike and Alex talk about his latest album, it's Dale Crover. Dale, thank you very much. I'm looking forward
Thank you for having me.
Talking to you about the album, which I've been enjoying listening to a lot as well. It's very poppy, I would say, by a sort of like surrealistic take on pop. Would you consider yourself to be a surrealist?
Sure. Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I guess I understand what you mean. Pop, yeah, I don't know. I mean, some of it, I guess is pretty poppy, depending on what kind of pop you're talking about.
Yeah, because I was thinking about it. I was like, this is very catchy. And it's, to me, in a way, feels poppy, but it's a million miles away from being mainstream. And then I was thinking, would there have ever been a time where like this could be considered mainstream music, or would it always come across as being kind of weird? I
don't know. I mean, I definitely wasn't trying to make something that was like, oh, I want this to be on the radio or anything like that. You know, I mean, I like a good melody, but yeah, I also like weird stuff too. And if it's too regular, I try to do something to make it not so regular, like Doug Yuletide. I mean, that one, that was like actually the last song that we recorded and wrote for the record. I wrote it with my friend Dan Southwick. He had this riff that kind of reminded me of like Velvet Underground, which is why the title is Doug Yuletide. It was recorded around Christmas time, and it was just a working title, but it stuck.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think kind of like once I put a bass line on it, it kind of came to life.
And I think the bass line really does make that track. Like that's one of the ones that stood out for me, and particularly the bass on it. So it's like, oh, this is kind of, I don't know if it's like some kind of like spy movie soundtrack sort of vibe to it. It's got a bit of a kind of a sort of a creepiness to it.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. I don't know. Our engineer Toshi kind of thought it sounded a little bit like Talking Heads or something.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I could see that.
But but definitely kind of going for like a Velvet Underground feel. At least that's what I heard once Dan played me the riff.
And so now that you've mentioned that it was recorded around about Christmas, that makes some sense to me. I was reading the lyrics and I was trying to figure out what it's about, because it almost feels like you're talking about some kind of Grinch character. What is it about?
I guess I was kind of thinking Nosferatu vampire, sort of, a little bit.
Not Nosferatu, first name Doug.
Yes, exactly. The Grinch theme, that's kind of funny, but no, just kind of like, the typical vampire story where he's coming through the window, hypnotized, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I guess that's what I was thinking.
Now, you mentioned, now I put his name down and then I thought I was going to say it incorrectly. Dan Southwick? How do I say
Southwick.
So you've worked with him for a long, long time, right? Did you first work with him in Acid King? Is that how far back you guys go, or further?
Well, almost before that, really. We were roommates first, and we used to just kind of jam and make stuff up. But then he wasn't in Acid King until a little bit later. That's my ex-wife's band. And he kind of played with them for a little bit, but I don't know if he did any recording with them. But he and I had a band called Altamont in San Francisco from about 94 until, well, we've never really broken up, but we haven't played in a long time. But he and I played together since then. So 30 years, pretty much.
So what's the essence of the enduring working relationship?
He's just one of those guys that's really easy to play with, There's my first solo record, he had the riff to a song called Bad Move. And he's kind of an accidentalist. Like he'll be playing something and I'll go, "What's that?" He's like, "I don't know, just making it up." Like, "Keep playing that." And so he'll always come up with like good riffs, and then I can take them and write stuff around it, or add to it or whatever. So, when I was doing this record, I'm like, let's write a couple songs together. And, if you have any ideas, let me know. And so he sent me a couple of different ideas and I helped him finish it. So did that one and a song called oh shoot, it's the last song on the record. What's it called? I'm blanking on the name. Punchy, yeah, Punchy, because that's his nickname, Punchy. Because when we're recording, he always considers himself to be one take, but I'm like, no, you have to punch in the whole thing, so you're Punchy.
That's a good nickname to have.
Yeah.
So a lot of people are going to know you as a drummer, whether for the Melvins or various other projects that you've had over the years. But I don't know whether drums was the first instrument that you played, but if it was, when did you get to the point that you decided drums weren't enough? Because I would say you could probably be described as a multi-instrumentalist at this point. So
yeah. I mean, that's true. My first instrument was actually guitar. And then I moved to cello, and then I moved to tuba, and then I went to drums. So, but I always had interest in drums, you know. But yeah, I started playing guitar when I was 8. And I don't know, just like the neighbors had a drum set that I borrowed, and I remember being in like a talent show in grade school, and I had a song on guitar, and my friend, I made him play drums. So like he didn't know how to play drums. I didn't really know how to play guitar either, you know. It's like I knew probably about 5 chords or something like that. But I just remember telling him like, no, you do it like this, and then showing him, and I'm like, oh, hey, this is kind of fun. So that, and also I had an older friend who was a guitar player that turned me on to a lot of music, and then showed me how to play like bar chords and stuff like that. And he was the one who was kind of convincing me, like, oh, you should get a drum set. That way we can jam together. So, which we maybe did once or twice. He was like I said, he was older than me, but he ended up being in a band called Metal Church, who had a little bit of success. So yeah, so yeah, I've always played guitar, and I mean, there's a lot of Melvins records, mostly later ones where I play guitar parts, you know, or like, I mean, I haven't written a whole lot of stuff, but I did write the guitar riffs for The Bit, that song that's on Stag.
I was just about to mention Stag, because that's one that kind of pops into my head that I think you play quite a lot of different instruments on.
A bunch, like that song in particular. I think I play like sitar.
Yeah.
I don't really know how to play sitar, but it's just one droning note, so that was easy enough, but being a drummer, I would always be the first one to finish recording, because we laid down the drums first, and then I'd just sit there and kind of help with other stuff, and whether it was like vocals or recording and building something, you'll go, oh, I've got a harmony part to that, whatever it is, vocal, or I hear this other guitar part that we can add on there. Let me try something. And but anyway, yeah, I've always played guitar, and Dan and I were, like I said, we were in that band Altamont from '94. So I've always written songs, and I guess for a while there, I didn't really have an outlet to release stuff. And I've always had stuff, but in the last like 6, 7, 8 years, I've been working with Joyful Noise, and because of them, I've been able to do this and put out solo records, and they're kind of into whatever ideas I come up with. The first couple of records there were songs on them, but there was also weird experimental drum things.
Yeah.
Yes, like you said, I'm known as a drummer, and I never wanted to let that go and be like, oh, now this is all guitar. Even live, the shows that we're about to do, I've got a little stand-up drum set that is front and center, and I play that along with a drummer in my band. So
yeah. So when you do have like the Dale Crover band set up, what's sort of the on stage setup? How do you decide what you're
on guitar?
Play?
I mean, I mostly play guitar and sing, and then I have that little drum set in front of me. Dan is playing bass on this trip. In the past, I had Steve McDonald, who's in Red Cross and Melvins, and we have tons of projects together. Toshi Kasai, who's a longtime Melvins engineer, plays. He's the multi-instrumentalist in this band. He plays keyboards and guitar and synthesizers and anything else.
Yeah, I saw mention of a Q chord. What's Q chord?
Oh, it's like an electric omnichord, sort of. like an electric harpsichord, I should say.
Mm.
So yeah, he played that on a few songs. We've used that a bunch in the past. It's just a weird instrument. Good for making noise. And then the drummer is this girl, Mindy Jorgensen, who I've been playing with for a while. And
no relation to Al Jorgensen?
Not as far as I know. She hasn't said so anyway, but yeah. No, just this girl I've known for a while that's a drummer who's super into drumming. And when I was putting together a band, I thought of her and thought that she would be really good for the band.
So you mentioned that your ability to have this outlet to do this solo songwriting sort of came about with Joyful Noise recording.
Yeah.
So how did that all come together with them?
I think the first thing that they had me do, and I'm trying to think now, it's like I've known them for so long, I don't even know how they got a hold of me. I know how it was. It was this band Quee from here.
Yeah, I've interviewed Matt Kronk.
Right. Yeah, they were involved in the label, and we did a split single together. And I think through that, they contacted me about doing other stuff. The guy that runs it, Carl's, has been a big fan of my drumming for a long time, and he was also a drummer. So one of the first things we did after the single was this weird, and they're into weird releases, like oddities, like kind of collectible type of stuff. They did this thing called I think it was a 12-sided record. It was like this lathe cut thing that had all these see-through, and it had these different cuts on the disc, and the way that it was the way that it looks, it almost looks like it's overlapped. It's not really, it's just an optical illusion, but there's like 12 different cuts where we put the needle down is a different cut. And I think it also had multiple spindle holes. So they did a bunch of crazy releases like that. Like they did a few like that. There's one that's cut into like metal that looks like a cymbal. There's a weird one, like the last one we did about a year or so ago, is all these weird diamond shapes. So, and then they're pretty labor intensive to make, like each one's made by hand. So they're collector's item, kind of pricey.
Tend not to have 10,000 at a time.
No, there's only like 124 of each. Somehow there's this magic number of 124 of these little pieces. So yeah, definitely like collector's items, people that love vinyl. And that label has like kind of their own singles club, kind of like Sub Pop used to have a long time ago.
That's cool.
So people that have subscriptions to stuff, and so they make a lot of special things for them. But it's been a really great relationship. Like after I did that thing with Quee, and then after we did the weird lathe cut thing, I was like, and the fact that it was limited, I was like, well, what if I came up with some more songs and we made this like more of an official release type of thing that anybody could get? And so it went from there. And now I'm on my third solo record with them. And yeah, this one definitely, compared to the other ones, it's all pretty much songs, or less experimental stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I don't know, I just kind of went on a songwriting kick and just kind of wanted to do something like that,
And so you mentioned that you've sort of always been writing songs, but now it took it until 2017 when you actually had sort of official Dale Crover solo albums. But you do have the Dale Crover EP from the early 90s with Melvins. So I'm kind of wondering, with those songs, does that kind of like fit in the timeline of your songwriting, or did you approach that of like, right, this is a Melvins thing, so it's going to be something quite specific?
No, I mean, that's just the stuff I was writing at the time, and that was the first thing I really did that was like an official release. And I knew the songs were different from the Melvin stuff, though they could easily fit in with it, no problem. I'm actually playing one of those songs live on this little run that we're doing, and I've never played that stuff live before. So, kind of fun, kind of fitting, I guess. And yeah. So that was my first thing. And
so, in terms of like your songwriting, what outlet did you have between that and then the Fickle Finger of Fate in 2017?
Altamont, definitely. We did 3 records over, I don't know. Like I said, I think we played our first show in 94. And there was a time period when all the members of the Melvins lived in different towns. Some of us even in different countries. And so I had definitely more time to do stuff. And I mean, Dan was just like I said, like ex roommate, friend that I thought would be fun to like be in a band with. And there was another friend of ours named whose name is Joey Osborne. And yeah, like we were all in other bands, but we had plenty of time to like rehearse and write songs together, and we just did it slowly over time. Played a lot of local shows in San Francisco. Haven't played in a long time, but you know, I ended up moving from San Francisco to LA at the end of the 90s in 99. And we tried to keep things going for a while. And I mean, like I said, we haven't really, we could play shows, you know, we're still a band. We just haven't played a show in like 8 years.
Yeah. Well, you know, some bands have bigger breaks than that in between albums. So, you know.
Yeah, I know. You know, but just the fact that we, you know, now we live in different cities. So
Yeah.
It's harder for us to do stuff. And the other two guys have regular jobs, you know, so it's harder for them. Like if they were going to do something, it'd have to be like vacation time or whatever, you know. But that's why I started doing a solo band. And Melvins keep me pretty busy, but I try to dedicate time to it when I can. It's fun to do. And I'd like to grow it and be able to tour more if I can.
And I meant to ask you as well right at the beginning, and then I forgot to. How's everything with your back after you had the issues and the surgery and everything? Are you kind of back to full fitness?
I mean, I'd say I'm fully recovered. You know, I had surgery just a little less than a year ago, and my recovery was went quickly. I was playing guitar right away, pretty much, and I knew that I would have a lot of downtime, so. I'd already had a bunch of songs written and just continued to write more since I had time off. And it wasn't too long after that I started playing drums again. And I just finished up a tour with Red Cross here in the States. We just did a 6-week tour, and we're going to be coming over to Europe in October, doing a bunch of shows in the UK.
With that tour in October, you're going to be also the opening act doing a solo show as well?
Yeah. Yes.
Acoustic Dale Crover.
Acoustic and DJ, which is what I did here in the States. So funny because, well, originally I wanted to see if the Dale Crover band could open. But it just didn't, like money wise and everything to bring it just didn't work. So,
yeah.
So those guys are like, well, how about you DJ? I'm like, sure, that sounds great. And then they're like, well, what if you also played and do like a one-man band thing? I'm like, well, I could play acoustic. You know, it's something that I've been thinking about doing for a little while. And, you know, also just like kind of like public speaking, you know, like it's just you by yourself and a guitar. So something that I kind of wanted to, I mean, not that I had any fears of it, but I kind of wanted to do it.
Yeah.
Felt like it would be something good to do.
Do you feel like is playing guitar less physically intensive than drumming?
Oh yeah, for sure. Drumming you can fudge a lot easier though.
Okay.
You know, but you know, I found that doing the acoustic thing, it's like if you screw up, then you don't screw anybody else up, and you can just, you know, find a way to make it fit. And you don't have to do everything the same amount of times or anything like that. It doesn't matter. I mean, you can improvise more and not worry about somebody else being able to like track you.
Yeah, that is true. That's
so
a good point.
I didn't realize that till I started playing live. You know, it's like, I screwed up a little bit. That's fine. I can just make it different.
Yeah.
And it's no big deal. Nobody will notice. Nobody knows except you.
As long as no one asks you to play it exactly the same again.
Right. But it was a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to you know, that tour will be really fun.
And where in the UK are you going to come to?
We're doing London, Liverpool, which we're excited. We're excited because, well, of course, we're big Beatles fans, but especially the Red Cross guys. And yeah. we actually, even before we knew we were playing in Liverpool, Jeff, our guitar player singer, was looking up online. And he's like, "Oh, you can Airbnb George Harrison's childhood home. And we're like, oh, we got to stay there. And so we're staying there when we come to Liverpool. Manchester, we're playing in Bristol. We're going to start in Bristol.
That's a cool venue. I mean, that's a cool city to play for sure.
Yeah, that's almost like a home base for the Melvins, because one of our good friends and guy that works for us lives there, and we have gear there, and we always do shows. We always do warm-up shows at this place called The Exchange. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's where we actually start this tour. So that'll be fun. I'm trying to think if there's any other UK gigs. I think. Are
you making it up to Scotland?
I don't think we are. I got to look and see, but yeah, I'm not sure that we are, unfortunately. You know, but
I will. I'm kind of like zipping back and forth between Glasgow and Oxford, so probably London will probably make the most sense for me to catch you guys.
Yeah, cool. I think there might be a Birmingham show too. I can't remember.
Also, a very, very cool place to play for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, going back to the album specifically, so I understand there's a bit of a story behind where you got the idea for the title of the album from. Something to do with being in church when you were a teenager, something like that. Could you tell the story?
Yeah, sort of. Yeah, I think I must have been. I mean, I was early in high school, and I had a friend who was dating some girl that went to this church, and somehow he wrote me into going to it. He's like, yeah, you can play drums. Like, they need a drummer for this service. I'm like, okay, what's that going to be about? And so we went, and it was this total Holy Rollers church, you know, where it was like, you know, yeah, total like revival, singing songs. Like, I was used to like stuffy church. You know, my parents went to church, and so I went to their church, where it was like, you know, much more of a normal service. They're, you know, the ones that you fall asleep to.
Yeah, I think that's probably what people in the UK are more familiar with. I think that whole kind of evangelical style in the US is very bizarre to people in the UK.
Yeah. So, and I didn't know anything like that existed. I didn't know what the hell was going on. And I just remember seeing this girl I knew from school, and all of a sudden she started like crying and like speaking gibberish. And I was just like, what the hell? So it was very odd. I never went back, but I remember playing, drums. I remember playing drums in the minister, pastor, or whatever. I remember he had his hands on me. He was like trying to fill me full of the Holy Spirit. And I was just like, oh, geez, get your hands off of me.
And so from that to then making the album, and then from what I understand, this wasn't originally the plan, but you somehow managed to get hold of Tom Waits to basically provide the illustration of the album's concept.
Right. I thought he would know how to speak in tongues. I figured he would. And
it seems like a good choice. Yeah.
I was really happy to get him. We were looking for guest stars for this record, and it was kind of like there was a realistic list of people, and then kind of a dream list. And he was, you know, I didn't think that. I just thought that would be impossible, and also like his name came up first, and I was just like, I mean, that would be really great, and I love Tom Waits to death, but I don't know, like, he's not going to want to do it. And what would we have him do? And then we were thinking like, oh, somebody should speak in tongues on this. I'm like, that's what we should ask him to do. And so, and I think that was interesting enough for him to want to do it, and easy enough, you know. I mean, I figured all you have to do is speak gibberish into like even like on voice memo on a phone, and you know, like you don't even have to get up off the couch. You can just sit there and just do it. So
it's true. Yeah. And now I'm going to be thinking of that. When I listen to the album, I'll be thinking of Tom Waits just lying on his couch. Just
he might have been. No, I mean, I think he really I think he was into it, and like, you know, he put a little bit of thought into it. It wasn't just like, all right.
Yeah. Yeah. I wasn't suggesting that he just was like sitting on the toilet like, ugh, let's just send this off. It sounds like he thought about it.
But I made it easy. It was an easy task. You know, it was something that was like, you know, no pressure.
And speaking of great guests that you've also got Kim Thayil on the record, and I'm a Soundgarden fan. I kind of feel like some way down the line you probably have worked with him, but I can't remember if you have. Was this the first time?
Well, kind of, at least directly. We did the Chris Cornell tribute concert a few years ago.
That somehow that something like that was kind of popping into my head, right? I didn't remember that you were part of that.
Right. I mean, we've been friends for a long time, and I've known those guys for, played shows with Soundgarden, like a ton of shows back a long time ago. And yeah, like through that we became, I mean, not that we weren't already good friends, but like we did some work with Matt Cameron right after that. And during the tribute, Buzz ended up playing guitar with the Soundgarden guys, and Soundgarden with Taylor Hawkins singing. Buzz became pretty good friends with Taylor, and then just all those guys. Like I said, we've known them for a long time. But once we were thinking of getting guest stars, I was someplace where Soundgarden was playing. I'm like, oh yeah, I'd love to get Kim to play a guitar solo. That'd be perfect. And asked him, and he said yes right away. So did Ty Segal. He said yes right away as well. So
yeah. Have you worked with him before?
Yeah, kind of. Like I played on a song of his on one of his records, played drums. And then we kind of were trying to get a project going together that just kind of didn't really end up happening. But we played together before. So and then I had this song in particular that I knew that he would that would be perfect for him.
And remind me which one that was?
Spoiled Daisies.
Ah, okay. Yes.
Kind of sounds like a Ty Segal song.
Yeah. There's a couple of other tracks I wanted to ask you about as well. So I wonder if there's a connection between a couple of songs here. You've got the song Jane, which I think is sort of about Jane Birkin. Is that right? Or sort of inspired by Jane Birkin? Loosely. Yeah.
I mean, I just watched that movie La Piscine. It's the Italian film with, what's his name, Alan? I can't think of his last name. He just passed away too. But yeah, I watched that movie, and then like I think it was a day or two later, like she had passed away, and I was like, wow, that's pretty weird. And I was like, oh, I wanted to write like a French yee pop type song, or at least my version of it. And so, that'll be a good subject, it doesn't really have much to do with her at all. And then also, I think exactly, just for sure. And then also, I mean, musically, almost like it sounds a little bit like the Pretenders or something like that, because I'd just seen them play and was inspired by them. So it doesn't really sound much like 60s French pop at all, but that was kind of what the idea was.
And I wondered, because, and this might be a stretch, but she was in Blow Up, the Antonioni movie. Right. And then one of the tracks is called Blowed Up. So I'm like, is this also connected?
Sort of, yeah. That's definitely where I got the title.
Yeah, that was a weird movie.
Yeah, I just watched that not too long ago too.
Yeah,
so I'd seen it before, but yeah, that was a good one.
Now, what else did I want to?
You're the first person to get that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm not sure how familiar you are with the podcast, but so it's presented by Mike and Alex, and Mike has an older brother called Robert, who, as we all are on the show, is a huge fan of yours, and he has some quite they're nerdish questions, but there's nothing wrong with being nerdish. But if you wouldn't mind, I would like to ask you a few of Robert's questions.
Sure.
What is your favorite guitar, and what is your favorite snare drum?
Wow, favorite guitar. That's a tough one. It's funny because I always want another guitar, but I know I shouldn't because I have a bunch. Well, there's one that I play a lot at home that I don't really take on the road. It's this Hagstrom that I bought in Boston in probably about 1990, maybe. I got it for like $100, and I love that guitar. That one is definitely a favorite. Buzz bought me a Mustang a few years ago that I ended up playing a lot too. And then, well, I'm giving you three, but then I have a Les Paul Gold Top that I bought. It was the first brand new guitar that I ever bought. and I play that live. So I really like that guitar a lot. Snare drum.
Now, whatever you say in
Well,
answer to this will mean nothing to me, but I guess it'll mean a lot to Robert.
right. I've got this. Well, let me think. That's a tough one because there's a bunch too. The one that I really liked a lot, I lost. It got stolen from me, and it was an Art Star custom snare drum that went along with the purple drum set that I used to have, and it had this really thick shell. But now I've got this Tom. It's a copper snare drum that's 7 inches deep that I really like a lot. So there's that one. Let me think if there's another. Well, I've got a really old Gretsch. I've got the whole kit. It's from 1948, and that snare drum's really nice too. It's a wooden snare drum. But yeah, so there you go, Robert. There's the nerdy gear questions for you.
Nice, thank you. And I've got another very specific question from Robert. Do you have any distinct memories about coming up with the drum beat for Drain You, or was it just another jam out session with Nirvana?
Well, those guys were on their way to go record Nevermind, and they were driving down from Washington, and I lived in San Francisco at the time, and they stopped to stay the night. Or like none of them had been a couple nights. Like they were due in LA in a couple days or whatever. And so Chris was coming down later, but Dave and Kurt had driven down. I can't remember if they had all their gear with them or not. I think maybe they might have been in their van. And we just went over to my practice place to jam just for the heck of it. And I brought along my 4-track. I don't even know if we were like what we were doing, I mean, other than jamming, like maybe we were going to record songs, or I don't really know. But Kurt had the song already, and we just started jamming on it. And Dave was playing bass, and I kind of just played whatever drum beat I thought fit the song, and it was almost like like a Ringo drum beat sort of. But I guess they'd worked on the song, and I remember Dave saying like, "Oh, cool! I didn't really know what kind of drum beat to put to that song, and that sounds really good." So they ended up using that drum beat. And that 4-track version that we recorded is on the box set, so you can kind of see where it came from. But yeah, I was just doing like a Ringo or a Charlie Watts style drum beat, poppy drum beat,
Yeah, but I mean, I've always sort of had that feeling with Nirvana that they also have kind of a pop element to them underneath all of the noise.
Yeah, for sure. Well, totally. I mean, they kind of went from being like a Melvins junior band to being like, well, I remember when they came down one time, like we'd already moved to San Francisco, and they came down. We would like play shows together early on. And I remember them coming down, and they had just recorded About a Girl, and it wasn't out yet. And I remember them playing it for me. And I was like, wow, kind of sounds like you guys have been listening to the Smithereens. I remember they kind of got like wide-eyed, like, how did you know? And I'd actually just seen the Smithereens play because when I moved to San Francisco, I got a job working as an usher at the Fillmore, famous Fillmore West. And so I'd just seen them. Yeah, it was fun. But I didn't know much about the Smithereens. Like, I think that had hit at the time. They were obviously big Beatles influence as well. So, that's kind of the way that they were going, kind of like taking like the Melvins heaviness, but then adding Beatles pop sensibilities to it.
Yeah, I mean, it's an effective combination. If you've got that kind of like earwormy aspect, but also you can be abrasive that satisfies that kind of like visceral need, then it's,
And Kurt wrote stuff that was really catchy.
Yeah.
And like you're saying, like you thought some of this stuff was kind of poppy. It's like, I mean, a lot of the riffs, like if I play it and can remember it and keep playing it, then I figure it's kind of catchy enough that I could turn it into something.
That's a good frame of reference. It's a good point to have. Yeah. Just thinking about you and Buzz. So obviously you have a variety of different projects that you've been involved with, and Buzz doesn't always play with you, although he seems to be most of the time playing with you. But you've been playing together for decades. I'm sure there's lots of things where you have like very similar tastes, but I bet there must be some things where your tastes diverge, whether it's music or otherwise.
maybe a bit. I mean, musically, like, he always liked a big, wide variety of stuff, and that kind of got me into like, I mean, when I joined the band, I was 16 and, we lived in a pretty isolated area. And I mean, I felt like I knew a lot about music, but um, he and our first bass player knew this whole other underground world. And, it was much harder to get records back then, And so they knew about all the independent underground bands like Black Flag, all the stuff that was on SST, bands from all over the place that just, like we're small and independent. And, but then at the same time would also listen to like, I don't know, Neil Young and Cheap Trick, and they still like Kiss when Kiss was uncool. They would still listen to it. And I mean, even early on, I always played Kiss covers, but I mean, we do have a lot of similar tastes, even outside of music. Well, like Buzz is a really good golfer.
Oh, that's right. I last time I spoke to him, he brought up golf.
Plus, I golf all the time when I'm home. Yesterday, I did 36 holes. And then I also play in a lot of tournaments.
Yeah, he's really good. He's one of those guys that if he's into something, he'll get really good at it. He'll do it his own way. I mean, even it's funny. It's like he golfs like the same way he plays music. It's like he comes up with his own technique and an own way to do it. And it works. It works well. So, he doesn't know the technical side of music. He doesn't know how to read music, or what notes are or anything like that. So he just comes up with his own version of it.
And do you? Because you brought up having played the cello and the tuba, so I guess you had to know how to read music for that. Did you keep that knowledge?
A little. I mean, I don't use it enough to like keep up with it. I was taking piano a while ago, and so I can kind of a little bit, and I can read rhythms, and I mean, I understand like, music theory a little bit, but it's funny, like, even if you do know that stuff, it's like, you have to know him and know like where, like what he's thinking, like, because sometimes where you think the downbeat isn't where his downbeat is. So as long as I can figure out where that is, then I'm good.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to remember because I spoke to Buzz when you were putting out Tarantula Hearts, and
oh yeah.
So I remember talking to him about how when you were recording that, there was something peculiar where you jammed along with him, and then he recorded your drums, and then he played something else, and then then you had to learn to play along with something different to what you originally played with.
Kind of, though we haven't done any of that stuff live.
Okay.
At least not yet. I mean, we kind of knew this year that he was going to go do a big solo tour, and Red Cross was going to do a record and do some touring. So it was kind of like something to put out. So there wasn't like a giant space between records, and then we got a really great response from this record. And now I kind of like wish like, wow, damn, we should have went and toured that. But yeah, that was like, I mean, with that record, we never really did anything like that before, where it was almost like improvised jams. Like we had a couple of riffs that we would play along to, and then just kind of like, especially with the drums, we were playing with Roy Mayorga, who plays drums in Ministry. We had just finished a tour with them and had done a couple songs live with him, and we thought it'd be good to like try to like we were fresh off that tour. We thought, oh, let's go and try to record something and just see what happens. I don't think we even knew that we were trying to make a record. In fact, we probably weren't, but it came out cool, and we knew we would do something with it. Usually whatever we record, we usually end up using, no matter what it is. Though I know that there's a bunch of stuff that we recorded before that we haven't got to yet. But, we're always busy doing something.
It definitely seems that way, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we like to keep busy, I mean, there's, we can't really, none of us are like super rich, and this is what we do for a living. And we're not one of those bands that has 8 years between albums because we just can't afford it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what we do. When I spoke to Buzz last time, I think I did ask him about when he went from having to support making music with other jobs. Was it, I can't remember exactly when he said it was, but was it like similar for you that you had a particular point where you went, right, okay, I can now afford to just make music the thing that
Yeah.
I do?
Yeah. I mean, it was early 90s.
Hmm.
And I mean, it wasn't like we were making a ton of money at first, but we would really try to work hard to do that. And we were fortunate enough to be on a record label that was honest in paying us, and then just getting a booking agent that could book us shows. You know, especially after the Seattle scene kind of exploded, we were able to like go and do this and make money, and we never stopped. You know, and neither of us come from money. You know, our parents were middle class, if not lower middle class, and so we, you know, we always worked hard. You know, because you know, we never had the luxury to like sit back and rest on our laurels or whatever. You know.
Yeah. Well, it's to the benefit of all of your fans.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we always thought too, like, you know, I like bands that are busy and have something new coming out like every year.
Yep.
You know, Ty Segal does that. He has something that comes out like, you know, once or twice a year, and that's really cool. Bob Dylan kind of does the same thing, even if it's not something new. He's got some kind of new release like coming out like at least once a year,
Mm.
even now.
Yeah. Yeah, he had, yeah, what was it? There was something. I have to admit, I haven't really kept track of like everything Bob Dylan's been doing, but there was definitely something fairly recently, like sort of like a 15 or a 20-minute song. Maybe I'm exaggerating it, but there was something.
Yeah, no, there was something like that a while ago, but there's at least some kind of new box set that comes out every year,
Mm.
even if it's like old stuff or stuff that's been unreleased. And so I'm always interested in that, you know.
Yeah. Now, Dale, there's a million things I could ask you, but I don't want to keep you any longer. So I just want to ask you one last thing. So thinking about the release of the album, which is coming out on the 13th of September, I
Yeah.
believe. What formats is that going to come out on, and what's the best way for people to get hold of it?
Well, I mean, however you like to listen to music, I mean, it's going to be on vinyl, CD, streaming. So all those things. No cassette release as far as I know, or 8-track, or reel
Cassettes
to
do seem
reel.
to
But
be, I don't know how, like, what the numbers are, but they do seem to be kind of like popular again
yeah, I think, yeah, with some people.
with some
Um,
people. Yeah.
yeah, I think the wasn't the last record, but the first solo record I did was on cassette through another little record label that well, they got in trouble, so I won't mention them anymore. But um, but yeah, I mean, you know, I mean, I know people that are still into CDs, and I guess, you know, vinyl. I mean, I know that the labels are really into like pushing vinyl, and
Mm.
they think of records in that terms, which is kind of funny because, you know, once vinyl kind of went away, we never the way that we thought of records was all kind of like one continuous thing rather than side A and side B. So to think about that now,
Mm.
to go back and think about that's a little bit different, and you
Yeah.
have to be careful with time.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you can only put so much time on a piece of plastic before it starts to sound crappy.
Yeah. Then you quickly have to go into the double and the triple album territory,
Right, right,
which
right.
becomes very expensive.
But it's okay because that way records. I mean, you know, like with CDs, I think bands tried to make records that were longer. You know, like 60 minutes
Yeah.
or whatever. And you know, with vinyl, I remember when we were first starting to make records, we looked at how much time people were putting. Like every record seemed to be about 35 minutes long. So I only need about 35 minutes worth of music now. I think there's a bit more though. I think that the new record's probably about 40 something. So almost 45.
I do think that like 40 minutes is a good length of time for an album. There are plenty of albums I like that are longer, but as a kind of like a rule of thumb, I do quite like the sort of like 40-minute album.
Yeah, and even now people's attention span seems to be shorter and shorter.
Yeah, I
You
would
know?
like to say that as I'm in my 40s, I'm not caught up in that, but I'm completely caught up in that. So the technology has sucked me in, even if I'm an older generation.
Right. No, me too. You know, it's like it's just how it is.
Yeah, it's how it is. Exactly. Dale, it's been great to talk to you. And
yeah, thank you so much.
I will be looking out for when you're coming to the UK. I presume that when you do come, you will have copies of the album as well.
Yeah, yes, I should for sure. Yeah, the record will be out. It'll just be out, and so yeah. I wish I could bring the band, but it'll be me, and I'll definitely playing a bunch of stuff off that record. So
yeah, I'm sure it's going to be really cool. So yeah, I hope you get a great reception for the album. And
yeah, thank you.
Thanks again for your time. It was great to talk to you.
All right, thank you, Tom.
Cheers, Dale.
All right, bye-bye.